everyone, and welcome to the Pop Culture Green Room. I am one of your co-hosts, Kimberly Bryant, and okay, today this is going to be fun. This is different. It's exciting. It's something I've actually talked about, and I thought that this would be a fun episode. So I'm here to introduce y'all to two of my friends. I've got my friend John here and my friend Andrea. This is the fun part. So this episode here. I am going to start talking about dogs in movies, dogs and war, and just the coolness and awesomeness about dogs. And who better than I've got my friend John, who was a former Navy SEAL dog trainer, dog handler. I guess is appropriate words to say for it. I'll let him like correct me. And y'all like pretty badass dude, like has some really cool stories and he is going to like tell us about like how he got started with his career, how he ended up becoming like a dog handler, and like what he started doing after, and also like his experience with film, all that good stuff. And then I've got Andrea here. She actually owns two Maligators or Belgian Malinois. I love these dogs to death, and she definitely knows an example of like not to get these dogs unless you know exactly what you're doing and how to handle them. So, all right, cool. Let's go ahead and get started with you, John. So, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, all that good stuff.
Sure. How's it going, everybody? John Devine here. I pretty much got started in dogs at the SEAL teams. Prior to that, I only had experience with golden retrievers because that's what we had growing up. And it was
Nice.
it was in the SEAL teams that I was introduced to Malinois and what they were capable of doing. So
Wow.
it was a really cool experience to be able to have the opportunity to become a dog handler. And it's something I volunteered for because one, I saw what they were doing to save lives, to save life and limb for our service members overseas, my teammates. And I thought that was going to be like one of the best things that I could do to help out my team to be able to make sure they come home.
Right.
And that kind of, became my life in that moment because I knew that when I was at the SEAL teams, the better trained my dog was, the better chances we had of coming home. So like
Right.
I was like kind of a weirdo in that I was just like I was looking up everything you could imagine about dog training, learning from every dog trainer I could possibly imagine, and also with the blessing of the dog team at the time, they were
Mhm.
pretty good about us going to seminars and sending us to secondary education at different universities, things like that, just to get more
Oh,
education about it.
wow.
So it was really cool. It was a cool opportunity, and then also we had an unlimited reach in that any seminar that was going on, if I ever like called them, was like, hey, you have a seminar going on next week and it's fully booked. I'm a Navy
Mhm.
SEAL dog handler. Can I come? They're like, oh yeah, come on,
Sweet.
just come on by. Yeah. So
That's
we
awesome.
we had a lot of good people were very willing to help us because they knew that any little bit of knowledge can go a long way with what we were doing. It was I'm not saying that to take away from dogs that just need help not pooping in the house, but like uh, our job was a much more serious job that if we had a mistake, that could be a very fatal mistake. So
Right.
I went from the dog teams and the SEAL teams to then transitioning out to not really knowing what I was going to be doing. And I just kept
Mhm.
training dogs because one, a lot of the guys in the teams knew me as the dog guy. So people were reaching out to me for dog help, things like that. And
Right.
a lot of the questions I was getting, I was like, I don't really know that one. So, but I was like obsessed with it. So I'd go find the answer and figure out how to
Mhm.
fix it. And then
Right.
before I know it, I was getting kind of overwhelmed with inquiries of people just wanting help. So I started doing a free dog training thing in the park at Balboa. So pretty much every Saturday,
Right.
I was at the park at Balboa just training people's dogs for free. It was like, come on by, get your dog trained. And eventually that ended up growing to a scale that I couldn't really control anymore. So I ended up making it a monthly thing. And then people ended up hiring me from that to train their dogs. And then that,
Yeah.
that transitioned into another evolution of, people saw my dog and they're like, oh my gosh, I want a dog just like this. Cause my dog was protection trained, but also very social and able to be around other people and kids and other dogs and
Right.
things.
Right.
And then people wanted that dog. And I was like, I'm sorry, you can't have my dog, but I can get you one. And thus kind of like began my like personal protection dog program. So then
Oh,
I'd go
super
overseas,
cool.
import a number of dogs, train them for 6 months to a year, and then place them with a home. And then in the midst of that, I had friends that were transitioning out that needed help
Mhm.
and needed a service dog. So I ended up just giving them a dog. And I was like, man, I really like doing this, but I can't just do this for free or else I'm going to be broke.
Right.
Meaning that like I can do like a dog or two, but then like, what else can I do now?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Then I ended up being introduced to someone that really knew what they were doing in the nonprofit space. And they were really birthed the idea of why not make this like a legit nonprofit, do our own fundraising, and then be able to have the training of the dogs actually paid for. That way, this can be replicated over and over again to continue to help veterans over and over again. And
Wow.
that was kind of the birth of the Rescue 22 Foundation.
Wow, that is super cool. That's super awesome. Because I remember following, of course, from the time you were training dogs, because Lucy and I used to meet you at the park in
Yeah.
Balboa. And that's what it shocked me. Oh my gosh, Andrea was hysterical because, Lucy was like so unruly and yeah, however it was. I couldn't get her to do anything. So we went to the park and I texted John. I was like, I don't know. I see a whole pack of dogs. I think she's gonna just act crazy. But she didn't. She walked up to calmly and she laid with the whole pack and it's like, I'm like, what the hell's going on? And he explained to me, he's like, yeah, because all the other dogs were calm and laying down because they saw each other reacting that way. It's like she did the same thing. And that's whenever Lucy started going on her pack walks. But yeah, you had a really great
Nice.
team going because there were so many dogs out there. And then the next thing I
Yeah.
knew, it was like, it was crazy. But yeah, and I just followed
Yeah.
your journey since.
Yeah. I mean, I miss San Diego. I wish I could still be doing that. I'm just not in San Diego anymore. Now I'm out in LA County, out in the desert, out in the middle of nowhere,
Got it.
essentially. Just because now I have like a ranch out here, which works really well with what I'm doing. But
Right.
I miss San Diego like a long lost love. This is what I miss San
Oh,
Diego.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. Same, same. And
Yeah.
Andrea, she's in Virginia now as well. She
Okay.
misses it.
Yeah,
So much. And
Diego, especially Coronado.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
My
Oh
happy.
my gosh. Big time. So Andrea, tell us about I want to know about how you ended up like tell us all about how you ended up getting like your dogs and how because I know you start off with our text first and then but
So
you had a love for the breed as well, but you did a lot of research.
yeah, so it was Artex. It was long before they became popular. Probably like early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s. I came across the breed at a national night out, and the police were doing a demo, and I was just like, "Oh, what kind of dog is that?" And
Mhm.
the police officer said, "Oh, it's a Belgian Malinois," and I'm like, "A Belgian what?" and, and of course, that's the same response I get a lot these days of, "Oh, Malo what?" But
Right.
so there's people that still think that they're German shepherds or like they're just small German shepherds, and I'm like, no, they're more like they're their own breed, but they are like German shepherds on crack.
Mhm.
Um, and but it took a long time, a lot of years before I felt I was ready to get one because I did do my research, which I highly
Mhm.
recommend people do with no matter what breed they want to get, do your research. And I did a lot of research and found that they need mental stimulation, they need a job, they need something. And the job doesn't have to be necessarily like police or military. They just need something
Mhm.
to do, something to keep their brains active because they're so smart. And actually, I just heard not or a few months ago, I saw that Malinois became just took the number one spot for smartest breed. So,
Really? Oh, nice.
but they're also high drive, high energy, and so I wanted to wait until I was at a point in my life where I could put in the time and effort and the money because they're not cheap. Um,
Right.
Really, if you don't have experience with training dogs and you need to hire a trainer, uh,
Mhm.
plus medical bills, vet bills, because I have found that they too tend to hurt themselves a lot more than the average dog because they just don't seem to have that sense of self-preservation that other dogs do, and they just are like all out. So they'll hurt themselves. So yeah, got to be prepared for some vet bills, some vet bills,
And
and
I wasn't even aware of that. Like I didn't, but then it made sense because one of my other friends, he was also a SEAL team dog handler. He has his dog Boris like was missing teeth. I remember like it was like it had
Yeah.
like miss a whole bunch of teeth missing, and I was like, oh wow, and
our tax broke off a tooth because he likes to jump up and hang off of trees. Uh, and at some point, I don't know when, but at some point, I was like, "Wait a minute, your canine is gone."
oh my goodness,
Broken off one of his canines, and then Freya did the same thing. and I don't know how she broke hers. It wasn't a canine; it was another tooth. But still, like, yeah, they'll break their teeth. They'll break. Artax broke his leg when he was just a puppy, playing with another dog, and he just did not have that sense of, hey, I need to chill out. This dog's bigger than me. He's like, no, it's my ball. I'm going for it, kind of thing. So yeah, they are, and I think like we were talking about earlier before we started to record, what a lot of people don't seem to understand when they are seeing these dogs in like John Wick, Max, Dog, on the news, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, these are such cool dogs. I want one. No, you don't. And most times, no, you don't. Unless you have a lifestyle, like if your idea of a perfect Sunday afternoon is chilling out on the couch watching TV all day long, this probably is not the breed for you. They enjoy working. They enjoy using their brains. And some are higher drive than others, but yeah, people need to understand they don't come out the box trained like Halle Berry's two in John Wick. Yeah, it takes a lot to get them to that point. They are very protective of their families, and you've got to keep that in mind as well when taking them out in public. It's not, Artax is pretty good. Freya loves everybody. I mean, I don't have to worry about her. But Artax will sometimes sense that somebody's not quite, that he doesn't want them close to me. And he doesn't do anyone, but he will definitely, like the Malinois comes out and he barks ferocious, and he's like, lets people know, back off.
Got it. So would you say he's more protective than Freya?
Yeah, Freya is, I mean, you could break into my house and she would probably show you where her treats are. But Artax would take an arm.
Got it.
If you walked out of the house, you'd be walking out with missing a limb. But Freya, she's just like, I call her my little Sour Patch Kid because she can be a pain in the butt. She's very stubborn. But she's also very lovable, and she just wants to cuddle all the time. But she's also very stubborn. Like, I do what I want, and it takes a lot of patience with her. But she's my rescue. So I've
got it.
Yeah, I've been working against the lack of training she had before I got her, and that was a family that unfortunately got her. Not knowing what they were getting into, and they would just leave her out in the yard all the time and not give her any attention or discipline or anything like that. So when she came to me, she had very poor socialization skills, and she had no training. So that was, and the first 4 months are very critical with socialization and that sort of thing. And she had nothing that first 4 months. I think I got her at about 5 months old. She's a lot better now than she was, but she still has her spicy moments. but she's a good girl. They're both really good. They're a lot of work.
Yep. Well, I think you definitely spoke of a couple things that is absolutely true. Like one, like the Belgian Malinois, if you were to talk about it early 2000s, most people wouldn't even know what you're talking about. Or now it's almost become a household name from all the stuff that's been going on with entertainment. And so prior to me getting in dogs, I was a history major, so I've always kind of geeked out in history. But if you look at a prior case, look at what happened to the German Shepherd. So back in like the 1960s, the German Shepherd was the premier working dog of the world. It was the hands down the best breed for working dog stuff. And it ended up becoming very, very popular because of movies like Rin Tin Tin and and other things like that. So they ended up becoming bred. It continued to be backyard bred by different breeders because people are buying them up like candy. And then people were like, you know what, though, this one's a little, too tough. I want a little softer one. So they started breeding them for softer, not for working purposes. And then they started being like, you know what? I kind of like the way this looks with that slope back. Let's keep breeding these ones. And so, fast forward 45, 50 years, and the breed is, kind of completely destroyed, where it's very, very difficult to find a healthy German Shepherd. When I say healthy, I mean like an anatomically healthy German Shepherd that has good hips, knees, and elbows and spine.
Right.
And a matter of fact, any German Shepherds that I usually get, I end up
Mhm.
importing them, not even from Germany anymore, but I usually end up importing them from Poland, from Czechoslovakia, because
Oh,
a lot of
really?
these
Okay.
places, their breeding was closed off during the Cold War. So it wasn't until post Cold War that the
Oh.
borders were kind of opened back up to then access these breeding pools of dogs that were not really so contaminated. So I bring that up
Oh,
because
okay.
what I see happening, that what happened to the German Shepherd is exactly what's going to happen to the Malinois. Like pretty much fast forward in 30 years, the
Mm,
Malinois breed will probably be destroyed. So it's probably going to be like,
really?
yep, absolutely. And then like, we'll probably have to find a different breed to use like for working stuff. So like that is kind of like where it's headed, unless it ends up being protected in like certain pools of genetics for
Mhm,
future working purposes, which, we'll see how well that goes. But entertainment movies like Max, like just like you said, like all these different
mhm.
movies that are featuring Malinois, like John Wick, they make it look super cool. People go out and buy them, and then what ends up happening is
Right.
they get in over their head, and then now there's a pandemic of Malinois in shelters right now. So if you travel around
Mhm,
the country and look in shelters, you will be, and then you can even ask people who work there. People who've been working there for 10 years. You could be like, hey, so like 10 years ago, were there Malinois in shelters? They're gonna be like, no, we've never even seen them in like 10 years ago, but now they're overflowing with Malinois from people backyard breeding them,
mhm.
and then they end up not
Wow.
selling. They don't sell them as a puppy, like whatever's left over. They just end up
Mhm.
letting. And in the area that I'm in right now, I'm in LA County, and it's
Right, right.
horrible out here. So people from the city come out here to the desert to let their dogs go loose, and then they end up getting scooped up by people like me,
Oh,
and
jeez.
I end up
Mhm.
bringing them to the shelter. But a lot of
Yeah.
dogs end up getting loose, and so like, and then when people get a Malinois puppy and then they bring it to a shelter, like people kind of think
Mhm,
there's going to be like a, because for cases like Andrea, like you're someone who's definitely different. Like you're like, okay, I want to go to a rescue and
mhm.
I want a project, and I want a project to work on. That
Right.
that is not the typical dog owner. The typical dog owner, if they bring it home and it
Mhm.
destroys their house, they bring it back, and they're like,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want this. So just like what Andrew was saying, is that the type of people, if you're interested in getting a Malinois, it'd be like if somebody's interested in muscle cars. If you're interested in muscle cars, well,
Right.
you better be interested in working on them on the weekends in the garage, because that's what you have to do
Mhm.
when you have a muscle car. So if you want a Malinois, you better be interested in training it, because it's not just like a drive it on Sundays kind of vehicle. It's like you got to be constantly tweaking this thing to make sure it's maintained and correctly running. So that's what Malinois need. And the
Mhm.
chances of someone learning how to train a dog when they get a Malinois is not high. It's not unheard of. I've had some people that Malinois is their first
Okay.
dog. Technically speaking,
Really?
technically
Mhm.
speaking, a Malinois was my first dog, but it was also my job, so it was a little
Right,
different.
right.
But I wouldn't suggest starting with a Malinois. It's kind of like it is just
Yeah.
kind of a more advanced
Mhm.
breed. But I'll also say that not every Malinois is the same. So you can have a super on the high end, like
Right.
super high end, crazy high drive Malinois, and then you can
Uh-huh.
get a lower drive Malinois. But I'll tell you that even the lower drive Malinois are usually going to be higher drive than any other breed that you've ever probably had. So it's just
Okay.
like the range just kind of shifts to the right a little bit,
Got
because
it, got it.
yeah, like for instance, there are some
Mhm.
yellow labs that are higher drive than some Malinois, but
Oh, okay.
the
Mhm.
majority of Malinois are going to be higher drive than the majority of most yellow labs, and
Got it. See,
and
it's
they
so
are,
fascinating to me.
yeah. And when Andrew said like they were voted as the smartest dog, like I I completely understand why people come up with these like those ideas and things like that. I don't really
Mhm.
believe, like, in my personal experience, like I don't believe Malinois are inherently that much smarter. What I think it is
Huh?
that they're just so much more motivated usually. So
Whoa, okay.
so it's like if you had the kid in high school who just tried as hard as they possibly could on their grades, like they are dedicated.
Uh-huh.
They're like, I am going to get A pluses this semester, and nothing is going to stop me. Versus the kid who might
Mhm.
have 140 IQ, but he's just so bored. He's like, I don't even try. I just don't even do my homework. I just show up, take
Right.
the test. And like that kid who's trying harder might be getting better grades because they're
Mhm.
willing to put in the effort and willing to try. That's kind of like what a Malinois is. So
Right, yeah.
there could be plenty of dogs smarter, but they are usually a very motivated dog. So that's
Got it. That makes a lot of sense.
yep,
Okay. That makes that makes so much sense. Okay, because
yep,
when I would be around them, I'll never forget. one of my girlfriends, Angela, it was my old boss. I went to go visit her in Texas, and she had gotten one, and she he was in training most of the time whenever she had him when she lived in Texas. Well, she still has him, but she's in Colorado now. But for about the first like year and a half of his life, like he was in training the whole time. And the one time I went to go visit her on a little vacation was the one time he was out of training. But it was funny because she had like this big gallon of like a water jug. And he was just so determined to like carry it and like get it to her, like to make sure she had it in her hand. And it's like even when she went into her bedroom, it's like he kept trying to like beat down her door and open it. He actually opened the door, her door handle, and he was so determined to like bring her that water bottle. But it was so funny because he did it. He actually did
Yeah.
it. And once he accomplished it, he was like fine and he was happy. But
Yeah.
it was just really it was fascinating. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
The
think
the devious one. She doesn't want to. She doesn't care about getting A's in school. But she's like that gifted kid that always got in trouble because they were bored. Like so when I go out of town, I will only board them with their trainer because
Okay.
I don't trust Artex. I don't trust boarding facilities that much anyway. You've got people working there that they're getting paid minimum wage just to watch and play with your dogs. And not everybody can handle a Malinois. So I will only board them with their trainer. And it may be more expensive, but it's peace of mind for me. But so anyway, I had to go out to California a couple months ago. So I boarded them with their trainer. And I get back and their trainer told me that Freya managed to, so she has cages or kennels set up so that, because she also takes in aggressive dogs to train them. And so she has them set up so that when the aggressive dog is there, that she can still get food in and out without worrying about being bit. So she's got like a little trap door kind of thing. And Freya somehow figured out how to use that little trap door to get out of her kennel.
Wow.
Oh really?
Wow.
Oh wow.
And she's like, I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she figured it out, but she figured it out. And she helped herself to a whole bunch of like, I don't know, it was like lamb something or so she's
Well,
I call her my Sour Patch Kid.
well, no, I would call that like that is motivation right there. So that like she is motivated to get what she is motivated to get what she wants, and she will figure out how to get what she wants due to that high level of motivation.
Funny.
Where yeah, no, precisely. So I mean, it's funny. I was like that as a kid where, I didn't do super well in high school because I wasn't motivated for school stuff, but I was always super engaged in certain things that I was interested in. And that's basically been the story of my life, was like anything I've been legitimately interested in, I've thrived in, but I have to be legitimately interested in it. And so, so yeah, I mean, dogs have been something I was legitimately interested in. So that's why I kind of like, jumped in head first and became a nerd about it. But, what you're definitely describing is like, you definitely have some motivated dogs. It's just like, if you don't give your dogs a specific job, they will find one. And sometimes the job they find is not the one you want them to have.
No. But yeah,
that's funny.
I was the same way in school. Like I did horrible, even though apparently my brain does well with math if I want to do math, but I hate it. So I barely passed math in school, but I scored really high on my SATs in math. And I feel like that's Freya. She's not motivated, she's not motivated to get A's in school. She's motivated to figure out how to get out of school.
Yeah. Got it. So she's like the student that will spend 16 hours figuring out how to get away with not doing the homework assignment.
Yeah, pretty much.
Rather than spend the hour and just do it.
Exactly.
Oh, come on, Freya.
Got it.
That is funny.
He wants that A. He wants to do whatever you tell him to do. He loves to learn. And he just wants to please me. So he learns anything I teach him. He learns super fast. And
I remember.
Yeah, but Freya, when I try to teach her stuff, she's like, no, I don't feel like it.
Yep. So, so you've had two Malinois total, or did you have any Malinois prior to these two?
No,
Okay.
I had a mutt before these two that I had
Okay.
for about 16, 17 years. I found her out in the woods when she was a baby. Yeah.
Got it.
And she was my best friend. And
Yeah.
then she was such a good dog. Like, I mean, I just can't even describe how I didn't have to even really train her to not do bad things. She just did not do bad things. She didn't chew up
She's
stuff.
so sweet.
She was the greatest. Kim met her. And
Mhm.
so when she started declining is when I started looking at getting a Malinois. And I had a German Shepherd when I was younger, and I had an Australian Shepherd years ago as well. So I wasn't unfamiliar with working breeds, but I was well prepared that this was going to be more of a challenge than the other working breeds I'd had. But yeah, so when Tara was was getting sick and not doing well, is when I decided to get Artax. And Artax, I did get him from a breeder. I went online and did my research to find a reputable breeder, not a backyard breeder, but somebody that actually has verified lines and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I found a great breeder. And it was really just because even though I would have loved to have rescued one as my first Malinois, I wanted one that was a clean slate, that I wasn't working to fix somebody else's mistakes.
Yeah.
I hear you.
And then Freya came along not long after Artax. I think I'd had Artax about a year when Freya came along. I wasn't planning on getting a second one, but she was rescued from a home that didn't do anything with her, and then that home was not able to deal with her spiciness. And they had a Malinois as well, but my friend was like, they were a Navy family, and she was just like, I was lulled into a false sense of me being able to handle a Malinois with our current one, because he's probably the most chill Malinois in the world. And so when she got Freya, she was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. I can't deal with this. And because Freya, she was constantly breaking out of her kennel, and it was just, she starved for attention. And so I was like, well, okay, I'll take her let's see how she and Artax get along and see if I can make it work with my schedule. And so I'm actually her third home, and not counting whatever breeder she came from. And so she still has some separation anxiety, but she had some serious issues with any change in her environment, like as far as, so when I first got her, she was housebroke, but then she would pee in the house, like pee on the couch.
Oh.
And just sitting right next to me, she'd pee on the pillow on the couch. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? So, and then she would stop. She stopped when she got comfortable being with me. And then I sent her off to a board and train because at the time I didn't have the time to train her myself, because I was working as a 911 dispatcher at the time. And
Right.
sent her off plus her issues were a little more than what I was prepared for. So I sent her off to a board. And that's another thing. I made sure that her trainers were experienced with Malinois. Like, I was not going to send her to any board and train. It was going to have to be somebody that was very experienced with the breed. And these folks are. And she did great at training. She came back and she started peeing in the house again. And I was like, what are you doing? And then finally, after the second change in her environment, or second or third change in her environment, I realized that's what it was. Is I think she was in her mind she was getting abandoned again, or getting sent to another.
No.
And so I think she's good now. She's finally realized this is her home and she's not getting sent off again. But I
Oh,
think there's
girl.
a little bit of, I don't know if it's acting out or if it was just her like anxiety, afraid that she was getting left again by her family. So, but she's good now. She doesn't pee in the house anymore or anything like that. She's finally realized I'm not going to abandon her. I live it the way she's been
Aw.
before.
Yeah. And like me as a trainer, like I usually and that's a very common thing that a lot of owners do, is like they'll basically take like human emotion and inject it into what we think's going on. And sometimes it could be correct. The only thing is like we never truly know, because we can't ask a dog what they're going through. Like what
Right.
emotional strife are we going through? Tell us about it. They can't talk to us about it. So
Very true.
when I usually am treating a dog in training, 9 out of 10 times, it doesn't really matter why they're doing something. It just matters what
Mhm.
they're doing and then what actions we take to fix it. Because those are the two things that we can control.
Oh.
So like you guys have already worked through that problem, so that's totally fine. You guys have worked through it, that's good. But like if someone were coming to me and they're like, "Hey, my dog's peeing in the house, what to do?" And if they came to me like, "I think it's because of this, I think it's because of this, I think it's because of this," it's like, it could be 100 things, but one is the dog getting access to going outside enough. And then like a lot of times in your case, it probably was yes. You're probably like, yeah, I'm taking the dog out, but it's just, it's still going in the house. And a lot of times the analogy I'll use is like, why do you brush your teeth with your right hand? Are you guys both right-handed?
Mhm.
Does it feel
I
weird if
am,
you brush?
huh?
Does it feel weird to brush your teeth with your left hand? And it's like,
Very.
yeah, it feels weird to do that. Why? It's because
Uh-huh.
you just don't do it. Well,
Don't do that, yeah.
that's the feeling we try to create with the dog going to the bathroom inside. We want them to feel weird going to the bathroom inside. And how do you do that? It's by
Oh.
not giving them
Uh-huh.
the repetition of even giving them the possibility of peeing in the house is in my opinion the best way to go, which is why I usually advocate
But is
for
that why they say puppy pads are a good idea? Is that why they say puppy pads aren't a good idea?
So no, here's the thing. People have used puppy pads and people have
Uh-huh.
successfully weaned dogs off puppy pads going outside. In my opinion, in my style of
Mhm.
training, I don't use puppy pads at all. I don't.
Okay, got it.
To me, a puppy pad is just one more step to getting a dog to going outside. And then also you're
Oh.
giving your dog reps of peeing in the house. So right now,
Oh, that's true.
yeah, so peeing in the house is totally
Oh.
peeing in the house is an
Mhm.
option. I had a puppy pad inside, and then now we expect to like train them to like not pee in the house anymore. Where, in my opinion, it's much better to just bite the bullet,
Mhm.
do crate training, and then just take them out a lot, especially when they're a puppy, when they're 8, 10, 12
Uh-huh.
weeks old. You can put them in a crate, but you're going to have to be taking them out over and over
Mhm.
and quite literally setting an alarm for the middle of the night. You're going to have to set your alarm at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, wake up,
Got it.
go let them out, let them go pee, put them back in the crate, go back to sleep. And until they actually get big enough where they can hold their bladder for the entire night. Once they do that, then you can start doing
Mhm.
the putting them to bed at like 9 o'clock and then waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the
Oh,
morning
okay.
to then let them out. But I advocate for crate training right away, because what we want to do is
Mhm.
put them in the crate. They don't pee in the crate. They go
True.
directly from the crate to outside to peeing. So they keep getting these reps of like, up, I go
Mhm.
outside, I pee. I come back inside, no peeing. And then like once they've peed outside,
Uh-huh.
you can let them in the house for a little while. You can play with them, engage with them, do whatever. But after an hour or so, you can put them
Mhm.
back in the crate, give yourself a break. Maybe you have to take a shower. Maybe you have to do some kind of human thing without the
Uh-huh.
dog. Put them in the crate,
Right.
and then a few hours later, take them outside, peeing outside. And so, in my opinion, that's been the most successful way to train a dog to be potty trained. Now, there's plenty of ways to skin a
Mhm.
cat, and there's definitely been other trainers that have successfully potty trained a dog
Uh-huh.
differently than that. But like, if I were to boil it down to like 1,000 dogs, that has been the most successful method. And I usually I start
Yeah.
with the most successful methods first, and then I work my
Mhm.
way from there if anything's going wrong. So I
Got it.
start
Okay.
So I'll usually start with what works, what works the most in most cases. And
Mhm.
then if something's going wrong and there's ever just like a something strange is going on, sometimes you have to cater to like that individual dog and be like, okay, you know what? I don't think we can really use a crate for this dog because of X, Y, and Z. Like, is there a reason like this is not a good idea? And very rarely, but sometimes there is.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have an exception to a dog that is an exception.
Yeah,
Got it.
Freya was going to the bathroom, like peeing in the house, like 5 minutes after she was outside. It was
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, and it was always when she would either when she first came to live with me or when she came back from her trainer, or it was like when there was a major change is when
Yeah.
Oh.
pee in the house. And then but yeah, it's like she's finally accepted that, okay, sometimes there's some change, but I'm always coming back to my home.
Yep.
So she's good with it now. But yeah, she was initially pretty bad. And I was just like, you're driving me nuts, dog.
Yeah. But also don't feel bad because it sounds like it was some kind of stress induced thing of some sort. But I'll
Yeah.
also say some people are like, oh my God, I can't stress my dog out ever. And it's like, wait a second. That would be like
Mhm.
us as humans. Like, is it bad that we
Uh-huh.
ever have? Is it bad that we ever have stress? Well, it's like, well, technically,
Mhm.
stress makes us stronger. You add stress physically to get
Yeah.
stronger. You add stress,
Mhm.
endurance wise to get more endurance.
Sure.
You add stress emotionally to get more resilient. Things like that.
Mhm.
Same thing with our dogs. Like if you never let them have any form of stress, now you can help them get through that stress. So you can help
Mhm.
get them through it and be that arm they can kind of depend on. But never giving them any form of stress whatsoever, I think, is not a good idea either. Like they should be capable of going through some sort of stress and being able to get through it.
Got it.
And that is one thing that I learned with training both Artax and Freya was they kind of needed to think like for example, when I would go to take Artax to I would take him on base over there at the amphib base. There was that little park, little veterans park that we could let him run around, and he would get so excited to go there to where he would start acting out. And so I consulted with his trainer, and they were like, what you need to start doing is start taking him to the park. But then if he doesn't calm down, turn around and go home. Like he's got to constantly be like,
Oh.
okay, what's mom doing now? Kind of thing. And he needed that little bit of
Huh.
stress, that little bit of wondering what's going to happen next, so that he would calm down. Because yeah, he would just go ballistic, and we'd get to the park, and there was
Oh.
where he just wasn't calming down. So I was like, all right, sorry, buddy, we're going home. You don't get to play today. And but he's a lot better now. He still gets very excited, but he's not. He and Freya both, they're not
Mhm.
allowed out of the Jeep until they calm down, and then I
Oh,
release.
got it.
Yep.
But
Yep. I mean, like you're using, that particular is one of the quadrants of operant conditioning, but it'd be the same thing if you have a kid and when he starts
Mhm.
playing Xbox, he gets too rambunctious. Maybe he loses the game. He starts breaking things in his room. Like, hey, if you play this game and you start having anger because of this thing, I'm taking it away now.
Mhm.
So until you learn to control yourself, you can't just like be losing your mind playing Xbox, breaking things in your room because you lost the game. You're getting a
Right.
2 week timeout from Xbox. So we just learned like, oh man, if I play like inappropriately, like, I don't get to play Xbox anymore. I should probably learn to control that. So like you basically like in opera conditioning when like behavior scientists are talking about that, they call that
Mhm.
negative reward.
Mhm.
It's also like
Whoa.
an example I usually use is like if I'm playing ball with a dog and then I have the
Mhm.
ball in my hand and they all of a sudden like bite my hand by mistake, toy goes away, game ends, game is over because you just bit my hand. It might not be like a full on bite where I need to go to the hospital or anything, but
Mhm.
still, like that is inappropriate play behavior. You're not allowed to go after my hand just because I have a toy in my hand. The game is now playtime's over. We're going home.
Okay, got it. So you just immediately cut it off
Yep.
and okay.
Yep.
yeah,
Huh.
I've heard them referred to as toddlers in dog suits, and they're very much like that, I've noticed. And
Yeah.
even though sometimes I kind of think along the lines of what would I do if this was a toddler? Because I've noticed that they will act out to get attention just like a kid will, because any attention, good or bad, is still attention. And just like kids, just like human children, if they're not getting any attention, they'll start acting out. And I've noticed that Freya especially does that. Artax still wants to jump on me when I get home. So as soon as I walk through the door, I just cross my arms, and he does not get any pets until he sits down and calms down. So it's something that we constantly have to work on, because he just gets super excited and forgets all his manners. And when there's new people that come over. So we've been working on that, but and Freya, she's like like brother and sister, how there's the one kid that gets all the attention, and then the other one that comes in like, hey, pay attention to me. And she'll act out if he's getting too much attention. And
funny.
I definitely noticed that she's better behaved when he's not around. And so we've been working on that with her, understanding that she'll get attention. She just got to wait her turn. But it's a constant. It's constant with them, with having to work with them, and that's just, yes. I think that's with any dog, though. There's always going to be something that you're constantly having to work on and update and refresh them on, and that sort of thing. But
well, totally. I'll say though, like, no one experience is the same, because like you'll have some dog owners that'll be like, oh, my dog never had a problem peeing in the house. It just, took like 2 weeks. The dog was peeing outside. Everything was great. And it's like, yeah, that was your dog. And like, not all dogs are the same. Not all experiences are going to be the same. And so the one thing I'll advocate is that just because something worked with one dog doesn't mean it's going to work for every dog. So just because you have one person who had I'm not picking on anybody with certain breeds, but if you had a Chihuahua, it's like it might not be the same as having a Malinois. It might not be and also no two Chihuahuas could be the same. Like one Chihuahua could be completely fine, and one might be super aggressive and biting people when they come in the house. And so it's just that you don't have to treat every dog like they're the same. Although there are certain things that will work for the majority of dogs. But what I'm saying is sometimes people have an easy dog and they're like, oh, like, why would you ever need to use a crate? Why would you ever need to use a training tool? Why would you ever have to use any of these? I didn't have to use any, and my dog's fine. I mean, yeah, it doesn't come when I call it, but like, that's fine.
that was like when I had Tara. Tara, I mean, she was housebroken like 2 days.
Great example, yeah.
Yeah, she loved to chew and tear up toys, but somehow she knew what was mine and what was hers. And I could leave anything laying around and she would leave it alone. But if I gave her something to chew up, she'd rip it apart.
Yeah.
She was just like, I don't want to say she's a perfect dog, but she was pretty amazing, and she barely needed training at all.
Yeah.
But these two have definitely been a lot more work. But so yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Not every dog's the same. Not every breed's going to be the same. And even though certain breeds tend to have certain characteristics, there's always outliers. There's, sometimes you might get lucky and find the super calm Malinois, like my other friend who that I got Freya from, or you might end up with, a lab that is just crazy like a Malinois. Like, there's always but I do think it's a very good idea to do your research and see what the breed that you're interested in typically entails.
Yep.
Even though, again, there's always outliers, but at least you should have somewhat of an idea of what you're getting into. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, a Malinois is not good to be your first dog. I wouldn't even recommend a Malinois as your first working dog. I would recommend having some other working breed before a Malinois. Because these are like I feel like I've heard the reference made, like if you have like a typical sports car, might be your German Shepherd. A Malinois is your Ferrari.
Yep.
and
Yeah. It's a good
gotta be
analogy.
able to handle it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And honestly, like, not everyone is really capable of driving. That's why you see a lot of rich kids like just crashing their Ferraris in these
mhm.
Beverly Hills neighborhoods and stuff. It's just like not
That's so
everyone,
true.
not everybody is capable of handling a V12, with that much response.
Mhm.
Trying to do a buck 20 around a hairpin turn. So that's the thing with the Malinois. Like they're very capable of doing very complex things, but if things go wrong, they can go wrong very quickly because there's just a lot more horsepower behind them.
Mhm.
So I just suggest that if anyone's like super interested in getting a Malinois, my advice to you
Mhm.
would be like start getting around Malinois. Start getting around them, meaning like you can go to training clubs, things like that. Like go
Okay.
volunteer at a training club. Just be like, hey, listen, I will volunteer to go pick up dog poop just to like watch some of the training stuff you guys do here at the training club. If somebody hit me up at Divine
Got it.
Canines and we're like, hey,
Uh-huh.
I will clean up dog crap for you if I could just watch you guys train for the day. Like, yeah, sure. Yeah, come on by. Yeah. I actually
Nice.
I've had people do exactly that. They come by, we give them a couple things to
Really?
do here and
Mhm.
there. Yeah, absolutely. They sign a release liability, of course, but uh,
There you go. Get that
we have
on lock.
yep, we have everything from that to like a full on like internship program where people sign on for a 3-month internship and like they're actually being
Oh,
trained,
sweet.
and then going through like a full on internship. But anyone usually doing that is more interested in actually like becoming a trainer. You know,
Okay. Oh, that is pretty awesome. Sweet. I'm gonna actually leave like your links and everything. Just like
cool.
I'll leave it all for my YouTube channel,
Yeah.
Spotify, Apple, all that, so
Hmm.
that way everybody can know where to find you and everything. So, and
Sounds
Andrea, too,
good.
if you want to leave any handles too, I'll do that for you as well. So, yeah, pretty cool. I just this was just something. It was funny because my twin sister and I. Well, she couldn't make it tonight, but like, we've talked about it, Andrea and I have talked about it before.
Hmm.
I'm like, people, it's and you even said it too. It's an epidemic now. It's like where these poor dogs are.
Yep.
I mean, they're getting thrown away, and it's
Yep.
like people like do your research and your homework first. But I think that's a great start. Like volunteer and get around them. Like and
Yeah.
yeah, super cool.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I almost wish that I think that movie Dog, they put out a disclaimer about Malinois, but I kind of feel like
Okay.
think about any movie that has a like showcases a breed. Like, I mean, I don't know if you remember when 101 Dalmatians came out and
Oh yeah.
everybody wanted
Oh
Dalmatians.
yeah.
Yep.
Next thing you know, you've got
Mm-hmm.
Dalmatians in the shelters.
Yep.
Um, I just feel like it would be nice if the entertainment industry would maybe when they do utilize some sort of a breed or any animal really, but especially different dog breeds, they're like maybe do the right thing and put out a disclaimer about, these dogs were highly trained, spent hours, whatever the disclaimer, please do your research before getting this breed.
Yep.
Something along those lines,
Right.
because there's just if there wasn't such a demand for these dogs, you wouldn't have all these backyard breeders ruining the breed because
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't be able to make a quick buck off of them. And I feel like there's such a high demand for them for the wrong reasons, just because they look cool. And they're a lot of work. I absolutely adore them. As long
Mm-hmm.
as I am physically capable of having a Malinois, that's probably the only breed I'll ever have. Um, I fell in love with the breed years ago, and then now
Mhm.
having two of my own, I absolutely adore the breed. And my opinion, I think they're the best breed in the world, but that's
Mhm.
my opinion.
Yeah. I was saying called just different dogs for different jobs.
Hmm.
And so not every dog was meant to do every job, but
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of times we have dogs, they pretty much they find at least throughout my life, I've always had like the right dog come into my life at the right time. And
Yeah.
sometimes we don't end up with the dog we want, we end up with the dog we need. And so that's what's typically happened throughout my
Oh,
life. And
cool.
I see that as a theme that happens throughout other people's lives as well, is that they usually end up with the
Mm-hmm.
dog they need in the moment they needed it.
Yeah, and these two
Yeah.
definitely they keep me on my toes. They keep me.
Yep.
They don't let me sleep in.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that I mean, at the Rescue 22 Foundation, we train service dogs, for 6 months to a year to place them with a veteran. They're trained specifically to mitigate a disability. But I will tell you this, that like there is a lot to
Mhm,
be said with a lot of people that are like transitioning out of the military, and just going through things in life. Like just having a dog gives you something,
mhm.
gives you a purpose, gives you something to do. And that, just like you were saying, like the dog doesn't stop being a dog. Like doesn't matter what you're going
Right.
through, how bad a day you had, like you still got to get outside, take that dog for a walk. Still got to feed that dog.
Mhm.
You still have to train that dog. You still have to do some kind of exercise with that dog. So it keeps you moving and keeps you going no matter what. And so sometimes I feel like that's what we need. Like just because like we're going through something in life, or we're having a bad
Mhm.
time, doesn't mean we can stop moving. You got to keep moving. You know.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when I retired from the fire department, I was not in a good place because wasn't ready to retire.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And Tara was the dog I had then, and she gave me a reason to get up in the morning to get out of bed. And
Aw.
and then I moved to California, and then when she passed away, I mean, I was not good because she'd been my best friend for like 16, 17 years. And
Right.
but then Artax came into my life um, about maybe a couple months later, and
Mhm.
he was the best thing for me at the time because even though I still adore Tara and miss her, he like
Mhm.
he was such a handful as a puppy. He gave me time to sit there and sulk about losing Tara.
Right.
He's like, I don't care, mommy. You might be sad. I don't care, but I want to play right now. Or
He's like, "I need your attention, like, right now. You need to focus on me." Oh, that's super
exactly.
cool. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, though. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, so that reminds me, because wasn't that pretty much the same way with Jean?
Yeah, I mean, so Jean, unfortunately, she recently passed away. But
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that.
yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like dogs, they don't live forever. You're lucky if you get
Mhm.
10 to 13 years with them. You're lucky, and that's pretty much it. If they had a good life, that's all you can ask. So she definitely had a good life, but
Right.
yeah, she came into my life at just the right time. I went
Mhm.
to the military, me having to give back my dog to the military, and going through that. She kind of
Right.
came into my life and gave me a project and gave me something to work on, and she was the dog that really made me become a trainer. Where my working dog that I had,
Mhm.
I was training him, but wasn't training him because I thought this was going to be like a lifelong career. This was very like short
Uh-huh.
term, like, oh, we're deploying in like 6 months, and if I don't, better have this stuff
Oh,
together, or
God.
else we're not going to make it home. So I dedicated my
Right.
life to it. But after that, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, I've dedicated my life to dog training, but like now what? Now I don't even have a dog.
Mhm.
So then I ended up finding
Yeah.
Jean, and then and also had to learn a bunch of new things because of her, how to fix a lot of things because she was a rescue and she had her own
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah. So
when I first got Artax, he had some problems with resource guarding when he
yeah.
was a puppy. And if you tried to take anything from him, he'd make you bleed.
Geez.
And
Oh,
that
no.
um, I went to one trainer, and he was completely the wrong trainer. He didn't have experience with Malinois, and he was like, "Oh, you just got to hold their mouth like their mom would," and he ends up getting bit and bleeding because it was the complete
Mhm.
thing to do.
Yeah, he
So
didn't know what he was
I
doing.
get on Google and I get online to figure out how to fix this. And luckily, he was still very young. He was probably maybe 10 weeks old, 10, 12 weeks old at the time.
Okay.
So he was super young, which
Yeah,
is
he
why
was
he
still a baby.
still had those sharp little razor sharp baby teeth. But,
Oh, yeah.
and I learned, don't try to take stuff from him to offer him something in return. And I know sometimes that doesn't fix it and you need professional help, but that fixed his resource guarding. Like now he trusts me. I can sit there, I can take a bone right out of his mouth if I need to, or I can tell him to drop
Mhm.
it and he'll drop it. And so just that building that trust with him, like, okay, I'm going to take this from you, but I'm going to give it back. Or I'm going to take this from you, but I'm going to give you something better in return. And over time, just built that trust. And now I don't have any problems with resource guarding with him. But that's something else I would caution people with is find the right trainer, one with experience with whether it's Malinois or you decide to get another breed. Make sure they have experience with that breed, because as I learned, not every trainer is the right trainer for the breed of dog you have. And that was the one session with that other trainer, and I was like, all right, no, this isn't the right trainer. And so I managed to fix the resource guarding on my own. But sometimes I know that's an issue that sometimes can't be fixed as easily, and you need professional help with that. But yeah, it's I definitely agree. It's not always there's always something. You're not gonna and you've definitely got to make sure that you have the right tools and the right resources. And but yeah, he was my first little project, my first at learning different techniques to train him on my own. And then I did enlist a trainer who has experience with them as well. Once he was old enough, once he had all his shots and everything, because they wouldn't take him until he was done with his whole series of vaccinations.
Okay.
So during that time period, I had to learn a lot of stuff about how to train him myself. And, but that whole process definitely kept me from sitting there sulking over losing my prior dog. And so, I mean, I do think it's maybe not a Malinois for everybody, but I do feel like taking on a project of some sort is a good way to get over yourself, get over whatever issue you've got going on.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing is, though, you did a lot of the right things, and I'll be honest, like in consulting a good trainer is definitely a good start, especially one that has breed experience in results. Especially if you've seen results they've had and testimonials from other people, things like that. And like word of mouth is a real thing in the dog training world, because in the social media world, people can make nice videos and nice pictures, and what it comes down to is on the word on the street. Did you talk to someone who actually worked with them, and were they impressed with what they saw? That's usually the number one source, is what I'm going to say, is word of mouth is probably the number one source. But you enlisted the help of a trainer, which can you go on YouTube and learn how to train dogs yourself? Absolutely. You totally can. But that's also like, can you go online and figure out how to diet and exercise yourself? Yeah, you totally can. But getting a coach to like tell you exactly what you should be doing, that has experience doing this and has done it time and time over again, is probably going to get you faster results, better, and also without hurting yourself, and especially without hurting yourself. And especially enlisting the help of a dog trainer is a great avenue to go, because they've seen, and chances are, if you have a good one, they've seen exactly what you have. They've seen it 100 times at least, and they can give you. The other thing to look for is, now there's the trainer aspect of things, then there's also the capability of the handler, whoever, the owner of the dog, the capabilities, where like how I treat a 85-year-old woman might be different than how I treat a 20-year-old dude, in relation. So like, I might not treat them the same, because they might not be physically capable of training the same way. So there are limitations to be had with, people and maybe it's not physical limitations, maybe it's structural limitations. Okay, this dog's in a family of 4 right now, and there's like maybe or a family of 5, maybe there's like 3 high energy toddlers running around. Okay, that's a much different environment than if it was a single or a couple living alone in a home. So there are going to be like differences in training protocols with different environments, different capabilities, things like that. But knowledge is definitely power, and I say just learn as much as you can, and just don't get stuck in the dogma. I like using that word with dogs, of only of only learning one perspective, because I always find my clients do the best when I educate them the most so they understand what they're doing. Not just like
Mm,
do it this way because I say so. It's like do it this way because of these reasons, and this is why, just so you can kind of understand. Because if you understand dog psychology, then all the protocols will make sense, you know. But
yeah.
if I just give you protocols to follow and you have no understanding of it, then you won't really understand why this is working.
Yeah, I've found a lot of trainers I've talked to, and I'm sure you probably would, I imagine you would agree that a lot of the trainers I've talked to have told me that training the dog is the easy part.
Yeah.
It's training the handler it's training the dog owner that's that can be not so easy because the dog, especially with these Malinois, they want to learn, but
Right.
people are people are their own breed.
Yep. Yep.
And
Makes
yeah, pretty much
sense.
most trainers I've talked to have said that the dog training is the easy part. It's training the human that can be a little more difficult.
That is not the first time I've heard that. Heard that before.
No,
That
absolutely.
makes a lot of sense.
I mean, inherently, even like the dumbest human is usually smarter than the smartest dog, usually. um, but I will say that there's a saying I have that if you're not training your dog's training you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's like even like whenever I walk Lucy, Lucy walks me a lot. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that goes hand in hand.
Yep.
Our
Yep.
tax trained me to when he lifts his leg, he wants his thigh scratched. So he's
Okay.
trained me some too. I know when he lifts his leg, he's like, I want my thigh scratched.
That is too funny. Oh boy. Well, on that note, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up since we're at an hour. But thank
Okay.
y'all so much for coming on. Like I
No
said, I'm gonna
worries.
go ahead and I'll throw up the links for everyone to go ahead and follow. Take a look at it in Rescue 22 Foundation. That's I want to look into that some more. That's
Sure.
where okay, sorry y'all. Well, I haven't like slept in 2 days.
No
So
worries.
that's an organization where you take volunteers for, right?
We do what we do at the Rescue 22
Mhm.
Foundation is we take rescue dogs and we find the ones that can make the cut, and then we train them to become service dogs for veterans, and then we ended up placing with a
That's right.
veteran. Yep.
I love that. That's super awesome.
Yep.
Cool deal. Well, yeah, everybody, take a look at everything. Thank y'all again for coming on. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to Pop Culture Green Room.
Awesome.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right.
Take
Take care.
care.
Thanks for
Have a
having me
good
on.
one.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.